consistently every week that I watch this show, when it comes to Legend of the Galactic Heroes, when I'm watching this Aussie the 2018 remake version, and also as well the original classic series, it is still so weird to me that like every week upon every week I am so invested when I know I'm going to be seeing stuff that either A, I haven't seen before, or there's been changing the scenes, and like completely with this episode as well, it is so weird to talk about, mainly due to the fact that this is how they treated this is how they did with the original series, with the recap movie of the first few episodes. Like, there's so much to get into this with like Yang, and actually seeing him being like the hero of LFLC, I believe it's pronounced, and seeing him as a cadet grow up and actually become like what he's clearly more known as. It's like, we got the episode last week where we got to see Reinhard grow up, and again, the show with its consistency of we want to be parallel with each two of these characters, although I don't know whether or not they're going to continue doing that from how it sounds like from next week, but it's definitely interesting, and I want to at least talk about this. So yeah, no, there will be slight spoilers for the compilation movie, and also as well for like the start of the original series here. But considering that you've seen all these episodes up to now, you will pretty know a lot of this stuff, and we get to see Yang and his little bonding with his like best friend John and Jessica Edwards, which that's a whole fucking thing to get into. So one thing that's interesting is that we get to see them as cadets, which if like you've kind of been following around, is that one of the things that happens in like kind of like with Yang's government is people can join the cadets, they get a loan, they get all this kind of stuff. However, though, if you leave and like you are being enlisted into a soldier, you will have to pay all those loans. So it's pretty much just like you can get all this money, you can get all this education, free education and everything. However, you will be serving your country regardless, which is like, you get to see where it's like there are some slimy practices being shown on clearly on both sides of this war, where it's like, hey, we can get free soldiers by using this way, and like even when you learn later on where they have like a whole kind of war orphan sort of like whole situation that they have, where it's like, well, this war's been going on for 150 years, so we came up with this system where, like, you know, war veterans and like people that are from a military family, you know, they pick up some of these kids. However, with this scenario, when they become 15, they join the military cadets because clearly they have no other family left behind, and like we just keep finding ways to... So you see the Three Planets Alliance, where it's like, especially how they're really portrayed in the original series as well, from what I like, as to say, up to date where I am at the moment is I'm 13 episodes into the original, and the way how they really portray themselves is like so fucking scummy. From like, whenever it comes to politics, whenever it comes to any of that stuff, there's clearly good people in there, but it's like every fucking politician that you practically see in this series is a fucking scumbag, and they're after something, and they're clearly using like people like an advantage or the situation that they're in, and it's like so fucking disgusting. It's like, would you rather have the shitty noble situation, or would you rather have the government like pretty much manipulating your life at this point? And we see Yang, which one interesting fact which I didn't know about was more about his father, where his father was a trader, kind of like a merchant, and at some point he passed away, and Yang was that orphan, and he ended up becoming, you know, part of the school, and like they gave him a nickname of being empty-handed Yang. Like as a kid, he's normally known as like a magician from what I've known from later on in the past, but it's like, no, he's empty-handed because he came to the school empty-handed. I'm like, that's a weird ass fucking nickname. And of course we see Yang, regardless, like he's obsessed with history. He's lazy in a way, but the way how he thinks is very methodical. He actually puts quite a lot of effort into his strategies. Like the head of the class, he fucking just dusts the shit out of him, which, you know, we see him going with his best buddy John, where it's like, hey, you know, we hang out, we get a couple of drinks, we enjoy ourselves, who is the guy that we see originally that like went down in that other ship with Yang, which again there's another thing where it's like they actually, in the original series, they fucking did nothing really with him or with Jean, because it was like, oh, is his best friend? Oh, I guess he died at some point. Whoops. Oh no, there's his wife, and he looks really sad. And like with Jessica Edwards, which I will say this one thing, like, because I know obviously it's a consistent thing that's being brought up where it's like of the art style. I will fully admit with this one, this character design was really fucking jarring for me because Jessica in the original series and the compilation movie and how she looks in here is a completely fucking different character. That was like, that really took me off guard. I was like, holy shit, that's Jessica? Like when I first looked at her, I was like, is that her? I'm not too sure. And then they put, she says her name, like Jessica Edwards. I'm like, holy shit, that's Jessica. Like, and Jessica's a kind of the, I would say, like, she's not a key player, but she's definitely, from the episodes I've seen so far, she's had quite a bit of involvement. So whether or not we go into a full story in this series, or whether or not we go into multiple like seasons, because it's so weird with like Aussie how everything's being handled in this show. But we see that like during a whole fucking battle situation where Yang was supposed to be on, he ended up helping evacuating a ton of people, and hence he got the whole name of the hero of like Thalzi, and a really scummy way, whereas like he doesn't think of himself as a hero because he was supposed to be on the ship that was supposed to be, you know, out there like attacking and protecting people, but he used that as a way of like, okay, they're clearly going to be busy, I'm going to use this as a way to get out all the civilians because he was forced to leave, and it was like, oh, the guy wasn't going to listen to him anyway with his tactics, and this ended up him getting 2 promotions to Rear Admiral. So it's like, no, this is, I'm glad because I didn't really see too much of this in the original series. They didn't put so much into it, but I kind of like that they actually showed a lot. Maybe it does come out like later on in the series, because then again, like people were mentioning that like with the Reinhardt stuff that we were saying that was like into the 20s, like into like later on. So obviously I know like they're changing a bunch of scenes to add in because clearly like there's limited time, and also as well it would make more sense in the backstory to be added here. Like there's a bunch of stuff going into it, and clearly they're kind of going to every reason with every character and like the philosophies of all the characters. So I definitely understand that, but it's still, regardless, like I was infatuated like every minute when I was watching the show because I'm learning about these characters, I'm learning about the world, I'm learning all these kind of little interesting things where it's like the reason why Yang is so obsessed with history is because he's like the same people that made the mistakes in history books are going to be the same people that are doing it in the future, and it shows us where we are pretty much going to be going. So, and it's an interesting thing where it's like Jessica is someone that always thinks ahead of the future. She's always someone that like kind of thinks ahead, while Yang is always thinking behind. He's always using his forefathers, and he's using everything that we've learned from history on that, while Jessica is someone that is like a lot more positive from what we can see of her. It's like someone that kind of wants to make a little bit of the difference, how she's like a music teacher, and how her and John are a thing. Like, although she's like, nah, I don't want to marry like a military man, and it's like, you clearly see, like at the end of the episode, it's like, oh no, we're getting engaged though, and it's like, you know, we're in love, and it's like, I will say there's a lot, like with the compilation, I would really recommend the compilation movie, if anything, like, for there, because it's safe to watch now. Like, if you've seen the first, if you've seen these episodes, then it is safe to watch that compilation movie of the first 2 of the original series. Like, the original series first 2 episodes, I think episode 1 is not a good start at all. I think it has a lot of fucking issues, and I think episode 2 is a lot better, but it doesn't really have that weight to it when you see like what happens to like John and everything. It's like, with this, you get a picture more of his character and kind of like Braden, but I will still say the compilation movie is still the best option because you have an hour and a half to explore everything with these characters. And again, a situation where it's like, yeah, if they had all that time, if they had like, they could make the show 100 episodes, maybe in 80, like even with some of the stuff they're streamlining, it's like, yeah, there are still things that are going to be taken out of this experience. And I feel weird where it's like, this show is definitely a lot more streamlined. This is a lot meant for a lot more of a modern audience, a lot of people that can like kind of tolerate some of all that stuff. But regardless, I do still find the original series really fascinating and interesting with a lot of stuff. It's just obviously it's very dated compared to what you're used to. But that if anything, that's like the complaint. If anything, I still think it's like a few things, because like if I still haven't experienced a bit where it's like, oh, they really fucked up with like kind of missing on that scene. There was a really nice little nod with the little girl that gave Yang like the cup of coffee, and he's like, oh man, I really don't like this, and it's like, I'd rather if you prefer you got tea. And like she started like puffing her like face out, and I'm like, oh shit, I actually know who that character is. That's really cool. And I won't say obviously because the people obviously some of you don't actually watch the original series, but it's like, oh shit, I know who that character is. I met them a little while ago, and I'm like, that's a really cool little bit there. And I was like, you know, the little tidbits here and there, and it's like, introducing characters even I don't know, like his former kind of like teacher as well, like the guy with the glasses, and I was like, oh shit, there's his like commanding officer and all that. They're like, I was like, oh, there's like a bunch of characters that you're seeing from the sideline where it's like, I know a bunch of these characters and I'm being introduced to them very slowly. In the series where it's like, and of course this series is just try to do as much of that as possible. There was some nice moments here and there, obviously, with not a bombastic episode, but it's just kind of paints that this has been Yang's life, and it's just like, look at the sheer difference of it compared to Reinhardt. And the episode ends very weirdly where it's like, you know, he's still moving into his new place after being promoted, and now it's like, oh shit, there's a kid on the door, and I'm like, yeah, I've always want to know what the hell, how the two of them fucking met, like, because that was a weird thing they just got introduced, like, at the start of the series, and I'm like, what's their deal? So I guess now, like, we're kind of finding out a little bit more about that. So overall, I mean, yeah, I really liked this episode. It helped paint a lot more of Yang in, like, both versions. Still has, this is the one where it's like, yeah, it had some issues where I was like, I kind of wish they did that scene. I kind of wish they did the whole way how Jessica, John, and Yang interacted in the movie, because it really was interesting how it was, because it was more as them as adults than anything, and like some of the stuff that Yang was doing. But overall, yeah, like there was some improvements, and then there was stuff they'd take away where I'm like, I kind of wish they did that. But there's nothing been jarring, like, again, it's nothing jarring where it's like, oh my god, they fucked up that scene, they didn't put that in. It's like, it's like, I kind of wish there was something like that. So still a great show, and I still would recommend it to anyone who's into their sci-fi. Like I said, if I've convinced you in any way, I would definitely recommend the compilation movie, and then see what you think from there. And if you will find with that old animation, you will be fine with the original show. And hopefully next time I want to at least watch another like 8 to 10 more episodes before I get into the next week's episode. So I want to at least try and get near the 20s at this list. I'm taking it very slow with this series and all that, but it's like a lot of shows to be watching there this season. So yeah, we'll look forward to that. All from me, thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you guys though next time.